Hello everybody, this is Piteyo from the Ninth Age, and today we have a huge pleasure of presenting you The Breach on an amazing table that has been created by Little Joe from the Ninth Age forum, who is a monster modelist and who has created this beautiful scenery that we are going to play The Breach upon. So, as you see, we have here Kamorko, the Orc Explorer, this dude here. You can see his cards from The Breach. And Kamorko is trying to escape to freedom after having done something nasty in this temple, stealing something. I mean, it's not stealing, it's an explorer, so, you know, the concept of stealing is a strange one to define very closely. But the idea is that he's trying to get out of this area, and on his way out, he's going to meet a number of Elven Guards, and fighting with the Elven Guards is going to be a way for new players to learn how shooting works and how charging works and how fighting works, and so on and so forth. There's also other scenarios that teach you how these different components in the game work. Scenario number 1 is all about shooting. There's going to be our Orc Explorer and an Elf Guard, and they're going to be shooting at each other. Now, let's start with the Orc. In order to kill the Elf, he has to roll 1 die, because he has 1 shot. He hits on a result of 4+, meaning 4, 5, or 6. And if this roll has success, he has to roll again to see whether it wounds, and it has success with a result of 3, 4, 5, or 6, also called the 3+. So, let's roll 1 die and see whether this is a hit. We need a 4+. And I get a 5. I roll it again. Let's see if I have a 3. And I roll a 2. So that means that the hits, but it doesn't wound. And that means that the Elf Guards can now hit back. And the Elf has 2 shots, which hit on a 3+ and wound on a 5+, because the Orc is a bit sturdier. So let's roll that again. I need 3+ to hit. And it's a 2 and a 4. So this one doesn't hit, we put it on the side. We roll this one again, the 4, and we try and have a 5+. No, this misses too. So that means that our Orc can shoot again. We need a 4+ to hit and 3+ to wound. Hits with a 5. Doesn't wound with a 2. Me and dice. Elf again, 2 shots. Hitting on 3+, wounding on 5+. Both hits. Roll again to wound, and both wound again. So now the Orc has a chance of making an armor save, and he has to make 2 6s to save both wounds. I don't think I'm gonna make that. I make 1, but not the other. So the Orc is dead. Ta-da! And in this case, the escape of Kamorko has been stopped at the very beginning of the adventure. Let's imagine, just so that I can show you the rules, that the Orc had won instead. Okay? So let's place the Orc further away, okay? Advancing in his escape plan. And as you can see here, I have positioned 15 inches away from our Orc another Elf Guard. We can use the same nicely painted elf by the forum members as an opponent. And now this time the Orc is going to be shooting at the Elf, and the Elf is going to try and charge the Orc, so that we can see the rules for charging. How do the rules for charging work? Well, you look at the card for the Elf, and this card tells you that in order to charge, you have to add 5 plus 2 dice. And if this is equal to the distance between the 2 warriors, then the charge is successful. Now, we said that we have 15 inches between the 2. I roll 2 dice. I get a 4 and a 1. And that means 4 and 1, 5 plus 5, which is the basic value for the charge of the Elf. It makes a 10 10 is not equal or higher than 15. So in this case, our elf only advances by the highest of these two numbers. That means 4 inches. Yeah? The elf is now here. This means that our orc gets the chance to shoot at the elf and see whether he can take him down. Again, same as before, I need a 4 up to hit and a 3 up to wound. I hit. 6. I roll it again. 1. I don't wound. Alright. So the elf gets another chance to charge. Now the distance between the two is, calculations, 15 inches at the beginning minus 4 of the movement. It is 11 inches. Right? So I roll the 2 dice. I make a 1 and a 1 because that's how I roll dice. And that means that the charge is failed because 1 plus 1 is 2 plus 5 is 7, and that's less than the 11 that I needed. And that also means that I'm only going to advance by 1 inch, giving Kamoko another chance at shooting the elf down. 4 up to hit, make it. 3 up to wound. Yes, finally made it with a 5. That means that the elf guard has been shot down and that Kamorko can continue in his escape. So he finally gets out of here and finds yet another guard, which is the one he is gonna fight the third scenario against, with the scenario with the rules for combat. So let's start the combat. How does the combat work? The first thing to determine is who is going to be attacking first. So you look at the fighting area in the cards and you see that the orc attacks last and the elf attacks first. The elf has 1 attack, hitting on a 3, wounding on a 5. So let me roll that. Hit on a 3, I make it. Wounding on a 5, I make it too. Alright. So now our orc has the chance of protecting himself with the armor. It actually does not. So in the end, our orc dies at the third scenario as well. Now, these are the rules for the combat. We have just seen the rules for the charge. We have seen the rules for shooting. The last thing that remains for us to check so that we can see how the game works is this battle where we check how the movement functions. And we're gonna have 24 inches here, distance between the two warriors. Maybe you cannot properly see the elven warrior because it is not on camera, so let me try and move swiftly the camera, hoping that it would stay in position. Alright, let's do that. So as you can see, we have the elf here and the orc there. And in this case, we can use the advanced rules for movement. Now, when you are using these rules for the fourth scenario, you have to first decide 3 things. Do you want to stand on your spot? Do you want to advance? Or do you want to march? If you march, it means that you can quickly rush towards the enemy. Now, you see, Kamorko has a march value of 8. So that means that he can move up to 8 inches. And if I do that, that means that he gets up to here. However, when you march, you put your bow or your crossbow, in the case of the orc, on your back so that you can run a bit faster. And that means that you lose the opportunity to shoot. Okay? Now, this is the turn of the orc. Once the movement is done, then the elf gets to decide what he wants to do. Now, the elf could just stand still and shoot, but now we can use the different rules for the 2 values, whether you are close to your enemy or whether you are far away from your enemy. So if you are beyond 12 inches, this means that you're going to need a 4 up to hit. If you bring yourself within 12 inches from the enemy, then you only need a 3 plus. So you can advance, get closer, have the better hitting chance. However, if you advance and shoot, you're going to be a bit distracted, and for that reason you get a penalty of +1. So what does it all mean? We are now 16 inches apart. That means that the elf would normally hit on a 4 up, but if I advance by 4 inches like that, I bring myself to 12 inches from the enemy, and that means that I hit on a 3 plus, but again, since I have this modifier, that means again 4 plus. 3 plus 1, so now the elf is gonna need to roll 4s to hit the enemy. 1 misses, 1 hits. We roll that again to see if it wounds, and it doesn't, because we need a 5 up to wound the enemy. That means that Camarco is now 12 inches away from the elf, and this one is in centimeters, alright, as if nothing happened. 12 inches away, and this means that now Camarco can try and charge. That means 4 and 2 dice. So let's see if I roll 2 dice and I manage to make a 12 altogether. 6 plus 4 means 10, plus 4 means 14, and the orc has reached the elf in combat. And now we can use the rules from the fighting scenario to fight the battle between the orc and the elf, as we just did before. So very quickly, the elf attacks first. 1 attack, hitting on a 3, wounding on a 5. Hitting on a 3 works, wounding on a 5, yes, and the orc again has no armor against the close combat attacks of the elf, and that means that Camarco escape has not worked out as the orc would have hoped. And I think that if you want to see whether Camarco manages to escape from the elven prison, you might have to check one of the videos in the other languages that we've made for this tutorial and see whether the orc is luckier than he has been as I was rolling dice, because yeah, I'm not that much of a lucky dice roller. For the moment being, this is all, and see you later with a video in another language. Bye guys.